Welcome to the Academic Woman Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak, tenured full professor, mom of three, and firm believer that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello there. For today's podcast episode, I'm turning it over to our wonderful coaches, Gina Robinson and Rocío Caballero-Gill. You're going to hear them talk about what our clients are struggling with the most pre-tenure. And the reason I wanted to, have you all listen to their conversation today was because they are the ones who are there working day in and day out with our Amplify program students. So they really have a finger on the pulse of what's going on with that special pre-tenure population. Now, before I hand it over to Gina and Rocío, I want to say that Amplify is open for enrollment. Yes, we are starting the only round of Amplify that is happening in 2021 on September 1st, and we are accepting applications right now for our program. Now, there's going to be more information coming about Amplify, but for now, what I want you to know is that it's a 6-month coaching program for early career women who are ready to do academia differently, to go up for tenure or promotion with confidence. So go to the show notes, find the link to apply, and we will get you all the information. We would be so excited to work with you. There's only a few spots left and enrollment closes on August 25. I can't wait to read your application.
Thank you, Kathy, for that introduction. And as Kathy mentioned, this is Rocío and
this is Gina, and we're two of Kathy's writing coaches, and we're taking over the podcast today so that we can talk a little bit about the Amplify program. So you get to hear our voices. We do spend a lot of time with the clients.
And together.
And
still even now.
So let's talk a little bit about the program. Why don't we first talk a little bit about the challenges that Amplify clients face that sort of brings them to our program? What are some of the things that you see in our clients?
A few things, but the first one that comes to mind is really this mindset that doesn't let them see a clear path. It doesn't let them feel like they can even go down that path. And there are many concerns and many fears, and it all, for the most part, stems from this idea and this vision of like not having a vision, not even seeing it, right? And I kind of like clump all of that into the mindset component. And so I would say that's one of the main things.
Yeah. And the mindset also kind of moves into this issue of isolation. I mean, the PhD experience for a lot of people is very isolating and very traumatic. And being in a tenure track position can also be really isolating, especially if you're one of the few new people on campus, or if you're on a campus where other faculty seem kind of competitive. I think sometimes that really makes it difficult to feel like they're part of a community. And that kind of makes the whole process of moving towards tenure really a lot more mysterious and unclear, because they don't really have people to talk to about it. Or if they do ask people, they get kind of stock answers and don't really learn anything.
Yeah. And I feel that almost like those two feed off each other, because if you feel like you're alone and you can't really trust people around you, and you don't really know what to do or how to go about the process, then you can get into this mindset of, I'm not good enough to do this. Am I, like self-doubt just starts like coming up to the surface a lot more. And in terms of the isolation itself, and this is something that we're not seeing, because of the pandemia, there's a lot more of that, right? Like they are already isolated in some ways, or trying to reignite some of their work and their research and their projects. How can they do that in a place where they feel alone and isolated? And then all of these questions, can I kind of go to this mindset of maybe I can't, maybe I'm not ready, maybe I shouldn't. And that really is, like they just feed off each other. And I feel that that's something that for the most part, like the most common things. There are other things that we could talk about, but I feel that those two are like the top ones. So in terms of now transitioning and seeing, how do we see our clients? And I'm going to throw this question to you, Gina. How do we see our clients feeling the most impact of the program, as they go through it?
I think that those concerns that they have when they come in are really kind of the biggest changes that happen. And they happen pretty quickly, I think, especially that feeling of isolation. As soon as you come into the Amplify program, you get this automatic community that is sort of connected to you. You've got the people in your group calls, and it's a small group of people who are moving towards the same goal. You're in different institutions, but you're sharing some of the experiences, and you start to recognize that you're not the only one who doesn't know anything about your tenure process, or you're not the only one who feels like you're out of place. And just that connection and that understanding that you're not in a unique position. You're absolutely doing the same things as other people, and you're okay. I think that's the really big first thing that kind of comes out.
Yeah. Something that I appreciate of seeing, once they start getting into the process, they start getting into the program, they go through the whole thing. Something that I appreciate is that sense of security in some ways. Having a chronic disorder, I know things for me are like very unpredictable at times, not always. And then that sense of, I don't know where I stand, what comes next, and can I tackle that? That can feed off some fears. And so going through a program with people who can support them in this community, and then learning specific tools and techniques and systems that even they create their own systems to use them to support their work, their paths, their careers, and not just their careers professionally, but also almost like what they want to see their legacy a little bit, and the work that they really want to start more deeply investing their time on. So I feel that that's also a shift in mindset because they almost feel like even if they already knew some of these tools, they've had the time to really more deeply work on how to adapt them to their own way of doing things, to their own style, to their own vision of what is it that they want to be as scholars, who do they want to be. And then that shift in the mindset to, it's almost like they reclaim their agency to the program because they have both the tools, they have the community, they have this vision, they have a mindset to just plow through. And that's not to say that, it's like, oh, like flowers and unicorns later on, but at the same time,
it's still difficult. But I think that once, especially once you have a mission, that actually helps deal with a lot of the time issues in a way, because then you start to realize what doesn't fit into your mission, and you can actually remove things from your professional life or your life in general that don't really matter. And again, once you have a mission, you can really start to recognize what matters and what doesn't. And that's going to free up time, and it's going to make you trust yourself a little bit more, which is the other thing that seems to happen in the program, is that people start to recognize their own wisdom and start to believe themselves, and maybe even stop asking for permission for things. Because again, they get that, like, if this is in my mission, then I don't have to ask anybody if it's okay.
That's so true. In this new revised version, and even better and improved version of Amplify, we also go, from this crafting of the mission and really helping us focus on what matters. We even go through a process in one of the workshops to almost like implement the steps and create a plan of that vision and what it looks like. So that's one of the reasons why I'm excited about this new version, because it almost seems like we help put a little bit more structure in some specific areas where, before it was a little flexible, but now we're at a point where we're saying, okay, how about we provide the structure? And, of course, our clients are going to use it the way they wish, but at least it's there in a more tangible way. So that's something that I'm excited to see about this new Amplify course. And, okay, so let's recap. So basically, some of the things that we really see them going through is to change the mindset, develop that confidence and trust. They're able to almost like take charge of like be the program managers that or project managers that they want to be, and really be able to enjoy the journey, because that's really the bottom line, right? You don't do the job just because you're getting a paycheck, but you do the job because you're trying to make some kind of impact. You're trying to do the work you do. And so with all these tools and all the support that we're providing, be the group coaching or the private coaching, the one-on-one coaching, the retreats, anything of the sort, I feel that they get to that point. So, all right. So why don't we transition and talk a little bit about some of the specific results that we have seen our clients have experienced through the program?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that people always ask about before coming into the program is, or they'll say, I don't really have very many publications. I need a lot more publications. And that is one thing that we do a really good job of, just in terms of pushing our community to support each other and do co-writing together and do peer review together to really be able to get those publications out, because that's often the thing that people are needing to get to tenure. So yeah, we've had a number of people pull out manuscripts or projects that they've been just sitting on for years and get through them, restart them, or revise them and submit them. We've had a lot of people finally go back to their R&Rs, because before they were worried about the feedback. It was too daunting. But now that they're sort of developing that self-trust, they're actually grabbing those R&Rs and finishing them and sending them back out, which is the thing that we want to do, right? We want to submit and get those articles accepted.
Yeah. And some of them have also almost completed books.
Yeah.
Which is part of the writing. And that to me is amazing, because I'm not in a book field necessarily. Like, I mean, we can write books, but that's not what we do. We process articles. So joining the team and going through the motions of learning about writing books, it was a little daunting. I'm like, ooh, am I ready for this? And then seeing all our clients, a lot of them writing books, I'm like, ooh, I understand your fears and your concerns. And then going through the program and coming out the other side and going, yeah, it was possible. So it
demystifies
amazing.
that process, because I remember just feeling like anybody who writes a book is like, superhuman. That's amazing. How do you do that big of a project? But it's really, really nice to break it down and see how you can just take it in parts. And you, again, have to trust yourself that, yes, this big, huge project is actually going to happen and come together. And yeah, we've seen quite a few people do that, finish their books or decide that, yes, they are at a level where they can start working on a book, which is kind of the other exciting thing, is realizing that, yeah, I do want to write a book, and then doing it.
That is true. And in the breaking down, what's, something that's very useful that I see from our clients' perspective is that we don't only help them break these things sometimes via, one-on-one coaching. How do we break it down and actually have a coaching call about that? Also, just generally speaking, how does one do these kinds of things? And then we also provide the support to tackle each of those broken down pieces. And so in a way, I feel that going through the program kind of like allows you the space to refine that writing process in a way that you can sustain it for later. So it's not like you go through the program and you're done. You kind of learn these things and adapt them to your own style so that you can continue after you've graduated, at least from Amplify. So something that I wanted to mention that's kind of related to the writing too, but it's milestones and, big things that we've seen as results. It's the funding, right? So we have to write proposals and that's something that at least many of us in the space do. And we've had quite a few clients who have written, from specific goals for funding, internal and external, to release them from teaching responsibility so they can focus on their books and their manuscripts and not even a sabbatical, but just buying out some teaching time. We've had a ton of clients, and lately I've been getting a lot of messages about, hey, I was able to publish, like 5-6 articles, and and then I submitted this proposal, and I'm like, oh my God, it's just so exciting to see these, accomplishments. and be part of that celebration, right? Because we kind of had a little bit in it.
Yeah,
by
it'll be in a
sharing.
lot of people's acknowledgments, I think.
I love that.
It'll be nice.
And the one example that comes to mind for funding, it was what we should strive for doing, especially in academia. Two clients who got together, early career, both of them, of course, and they were able to design, write, and submit this career grant proposal, which, for those of you who don't know, the career grant is like a super prestigious, super hard, competitive kind of grant that an award that you can submit earlier in your career. And so we had two clients who partnered and did this. And it was so cool to see them in the momentum sessions working together. And I would join them sometimes and be like, cool, let's do this. And I'm writing my thing and you're writing your thing and we're all together. And so see them going through the peer review and tackle some of the issues in the writing and just sharing in the mastermind calls and everything. And then finally on the other side, coming out of that, one of them got the career grant, which is amazing. And then the other one got really good feedback and ideas on how, other potential fundings for specific parts of that grant, and then the resubmission of that, of course. So to me, that's one of the milestones that I hold near and dear to my heart, because it just shows the power of what we do in our group, in this program. We build a community. We're not competing against each other. We're doing things together for the better science, better academia, better everything. And yeah, so that to me it was just magical. I love that.
It was also really, really awesome to hear the way that people responded to the person who got the grant, because I have been in faculty meetings where someone would say, oh, I got this award or this grant, and everyone would just sort of like side eye them like, oh, great. But this was real, genuine happiness for other people. And it reminds me of something that Kathy talks about a lot, which is the abundance and scarcity mindsets. And we're in this community, we're actually developing a little bit of an abundance mindset, because you don't get this grant this year, you might actually be able to get it the next year because you've been working with people who've gotten the grants, and because you believe more in your work and you have more time. And so we can actually be proud of each other's accomplishments, which is just really rare in academia, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know that.
It can be really revolutionary even.
Yeah.
And hopefully one day we'll get there and that will be the norm.
Yeah. And then in terms of careers, obviously, Amplify being a program for faculty who are moving towards tenure or towards promotion, we have had a number of people. We had two people who got tenure and joined Elevate, our post-tenure program or mid-career program. And we had a number of other promotions to senior lecturer in other academic systems. And then we also had someone in our Amplify program who worked for a government agency. So she wasn't even in academia. She has a PhD and she's in a space where she has to do a lot of writing. But kind of towards the end of the program, she applied for and got a promotion within this government agency, which is a pretty big deal. I mean, especially for academics, because we don't really know as much about that world, but she made it through.
Yeah. And something that I hear from what you're saying, Gina, is that a lot of our clients, most of them, that's what they go through this process of first, oh, there's this promotion, it's daunting, or am I ready? Am I worthy of getting that? To this process. And then they go through this mindset change where they're like, yeah, this is something I deserve. This is something I want. And this is something I'm going for. Or making a decision that maybe this one thing was in the path in transitioning, right? Because we also had someone who knew the kind of work she wanted to do and she could not do it at the university where she was. And then she also didn't feel like that was the right fit. Culturally, it wasn't a place where she felt like at home in a community. And so seeing her through the process of figuring that out, then making, the jump and taking the leap and applying to another position and getting to a place where she felt like she was actually a better fit and that she could do the work that she wanted to do and be recognized both financially and just as a professional, right? So that to me is also another one of the wins that we have seen. And I know this is one example, we've had more than that, but these are the ones that I know come to mind. And And it's just so amazing to see them, to cheer them on and to see it happening, like crossing the finish line. And, there are more coming, but this one finish line, we all did it together and we were there cheering these people and they did it. So.
Yeah. And it goes back to the thing you said about agency before. That's such a good word. I mean, I think a lot of people feel like they don't really have any control over their career. They're just kind of being like pushed down a river or something. But yeah, I think when they finish the Amplify program, our clients feel like they have control over their careers and they know what it is that they want to do. And again, that's like a rare experience to have in academia. I wish it weren't. And maybe that's, that's our goal, is for it to not be such a rare feeling that you are actually in charge of your career.
Yeah. And what's something cool? If anything, the past year and a half or so, that's shown us that even with an unpredictable time, when things shut down and funding gets rerouted and, places are not doing that well, even then, we still see clients being able to feel like they're in charge and take the next step. So I almost feel like what we're doing is, I'm not going to say it's bulletproof, but it is significant enough that with this additional, barrier of unpredictability because of this kind of, COVID-19 situation, even then, we were still able to have some of these results with our clients that I feel it makes me excited to know that anything that we've refined and done for this program is still able to weather through these specific barriers.
Yeah, because things are a little bit more difficult for a lot of faculty now, so post-COVID or, during the pandemic, they've been really difficult. But yeah, then we've had a lot of people see those opportunities in this strange situation and actually make some moves or make some changes that have been really good for them.
Yeah, both personally and professionally. So that's something that we always like to make sure that we enforce, because we're not just creating the little soldiers to be productive for like 100% of the time and work 24/7. We care about the people.
That's a really important point, is that we're very human and you can't think of your career trajectory or your career success without thinking about everything else around it. And so, if you have a chronic disorder, or if you have kids, or if you are taking care of a family member, or, any of the other things that could be going on in your life, those things are important. And so we don't want to push those aside when we're thinking about our careers. We want to bring them in. And I think that's just so much more helpful.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So let's start going toward the end of this podcast. And let's talk a little bit about the main things that we see our clients hesitate about when it comes to joining Amplify. What are some of the top, how about we cover the top two things that we see clients going, oh, but what about this? Super important thing. How do I tackle this?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to talk about one of the hard things. We're going to talk about money, because this is a program that you have to pay for, and it's not necessarily inexpensive for many people. And I personally know that I'm kind of a penny pincher. And so I imagine that I would also have this hesitation, anytime anybody wants my money, the big question is, what am I investing in? And in this program, you are investing, first of all, in yourself. And that's really important, because, we're socialized not to care about ourselves as much as other people. And so putting this kind of money down is an investment in yourself. And it's a promise to yourself that you are going to make some changes to have the career you want. I think the other thing is that you have to have a little bit of skin in the game, to paraphrase Lin-Manuel Miranda. You've got to have skin in the game. You have to pay something to do this, in part because it's going to help you commit to it. I've had a Planet Fitness membership for 3 years, and it's like, oh, $10 a month, no big deal. And I never go, because I'm not really being pulled. I haven't invested enough in it. And so I can ignore it and I can put it at the very bottom of my list. But I think that once you really recognize the kind of investment that this is and recognize the return on investment that this will help you get tenure, it'll help you be a better writer, it'll help you be a happier person in general, then that money doesn't necessarily seem like so much. It just feels like an investment in your career and in yourself.
I love that, Gina, because I would say that's probably the top one, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are other things that give a little bit of pause when it's like, oh, what am I joining? I would say as number 2 on that list of top 2 would be time. A lot of the clients that, especially before when we had like the 10-minute calls and we had like 10 minutes to chat with the clients and see if we were a good fit for each other. Even from then, it was clear that, yes, money and also the time. I don't have the time. How am I going to be able to go through the program? Yes, I'm asking about the program and I want to do it, but only if it's, I don't know, little time. And it kind of goes hand in hand with that commitment and that investment. And to me, like when we're talking with clients and we see their hesitation with time, I just want to talk about, okay, it's not just time, it's also energy. and it's not just the money, and everything is connected. And so in a way, how we hope that people and our pre-tour clients can invest in themselves financially, the time commitment is also, I feel goes hand in hand with that. Amplify is not the kind of program that's going to take, it can take you as long as you want it, right?
Yeah, you can build the time.
You can build the time. It's going to take whatever time you give it. And it's with this particular program, it's probably not a bad thing if it takes longer, because you're going to always get good stuff that you can use and implement and improve professionally and personally. However, we do make and craft the lessons and the recordings for these workshops and everything that goes that you can do asynchronously. We keep it relatively short so that, it's not an hour of a video necessarily for every single thing, right? We try to keep it short and get to the punch, 3 things, and then 3 things to keep in mind. So it's always a 3. And in addition to that, I guess one of the things is the meetings. Like as soon as we talk about, oh yeah, we have meetings when we gather as a group and we do group coaching, then it's like, oh, the time and
how much time is it going to take?
Yeah, that's true. And so what we have to realize and talk about with the clients when it comes to this is that a lot of the work in terms of really understanding more deeply to a different level, the content that we create for Amplify, that we have for Amplify, it takes place sometimes in these group meetings and the peer mentoring that happens there. And that's really where the magic happens. And so, yes, Amplify, we're trying to be very intentional and mindful of the time. And at the same time, there will be a time commitment. And so at least 2 group calls a month. There will be a beginning retreat to cover the material that we're going to have, and then some asynchronous work. So yeah, time is one of the main things.
Yeah. And you mentioned the energy as well. So yeah. I also want to note that I don't feel like anybody's ever left one of our group coaching calls feeling lower than they did before.
Oh, yeah.
Those calls are really energizing, even for people who are actually introverts. Like I'm kind of a secret introvert, and they're energizing because you're sort of like bouncing off the energy of other people and off of that connection that you're making. And so, especially like 2 hours a month of that is, sometimes I feel like it's not enough. I'd love to, meet every week to chat, but, it's just enough time that you can really reset and think about your goals. And like I said, connect with other people and sort of build that energy. It's not a lot of time, and it actually kind of creates a little bit more time for you because you're enthusiastic about your job again.
That's right. Yeah. And that's really one of the good things that we do with the program. We help each other create time, whether it's through that energy that we get that now we can invest, or actually going through specific tools that can help us focus and prioritize in a way that it almost seems like we're creating time, because then we can actually go straight to the task, straight to the goal and get it. And so that's part of the program. It's a little hard to talk with clients about time from this perspective, having, refined the program and gone through the program with a few cohorts already. And for someone who doesn't quite speak that language yet. So it's almost like, it's interesting when we talk to clients at the beginning, because it's like, okay, let's just start easy. Here's all the material. You'll get here, and here, the end goal is really what we want for them. and many things. So, yeah.
Let's talk about some of our favorite parts, some of the things that we've really enjoyed seeing in the Amplify program, some of the transformations that have excited us.
Oh my God, there's so many. And I told you before the call, I'm going to start crying with this one. I hope not. And it's because the people that we, like right now, I still have, like, I immediately have faces in my head of some of the previous people who have gone through the program. We have a couple who have actually did the first time Amplify and then they sign up again for the next wave of Amplify. So we have repeat clients and people in the programs. And all those faces are coming to mind as soon as you say, what do we enjoy the most? I have seen transformation in so many ways. And I think they all stem from really opening up to the world. It's almost like I see them almost like little flowers, like they're actually realizing the good they have inside. Like the writing on their book or this manuscript they want to come out, the research that they're doing, and then just kind of like slowly through the program they let it out, and then they bloom. And at the end, I remember like vividly people saying, yes, I can write this book. Oh my God, I wrote that outline. Oh my God, now I have the chapters. Oh my goodness, I got funding so that I could focus more on this part of my research that I'm more excited about now. So yeah, so a lot of the transformations come from this place of believing in ourselves, or the clients believing in themselves and saying, I can do this, and then actually doing it. It's not just that rosy, I'm always thinking, what's the tangible? What's the intangible? Like, what are the things they're feeling and accomplishing through that from that perspective, but also what are some of like the actual milestones they're getting, like on paper, on the CV. And I've seen both of those transformations, and also I've seen them combining them, knowing that they enjoy their careers now because of specific changes they made, because they felt like that was what they needed. So it's almost like figuring out, I've seen transformations, figuring out what their needs are, to taking action to address those in both professionally and personally. And then getting all of these other milestones that come from this path and this journey, and coming out the other way and saying, yes, I'm happy. This is the career that I wanted. This is how I wanted to do my work. This is the voice that I want to have and share with others in my community, with my audience. So yeah, before I start crying, keep going. Your turn.
I was just thinking about how when I started this position a few years ago, I thought of it in one really specific way. And I think a lot of potential clients think of it as kind of like, I need to write more so I can get tenure. And that's true. There's nothing, that's not correct about that. But I think that what we do is just like so much deeper than that. And you're not going to be able to focus on that writing if you don't deal with all of those other things that you need to deal with. How do you become a great teacher as well without taking up all of your time? How do you mentor people, or how do you find mentors? There are all of these other parts of our careers that are not just the writing, but they all affect the writing. And so being able to see people be who they are as faculty and also as human beings, that has felt really good, because we all have busy lives, we have things going on. And so to be able to acknowledge all of those, I had one Amplify member who always did her group calls on a walk with her daughter in her front carrier.
That's right.
Because she was like, this is what has to happen every day. And it felt really good that she didn't have to like hide her personal life from us the way that sometimes I feel like we have to do in really professional situations. To be able to sort of integrate all of that, that feels really good, because then it's not just like I'm a person and a scholar. You bring all of that together so that you're all one being.
I love how you said that, Gina, because that's a lot of the work that we need to do, or our clients need to do. And most of the time, there's no time for that, right? So being able to provide a space for these amazing scholars to figure out what kind of humans and scholars they want to be, and marry those and do the work from that space. It's just amazing. So yeah, promise not to cry now. I just have these faces in my head and I'm like, oh, they're so amazing.
Yeah, that's the last thing, is that the people in the Amplify program become kind of family in a way for us, because with Zoom, we're reaching into each other's homes or offices. And, just as adults, I think sometimes building friendships and connections can be difficult. And I don't think that I've felt so connected to people who are across the country, across the globe. And because we're all, again, like moving towards this common goal that brings us together.
I'm so honored that you spent your valuable time listening to this episode. Thank you. Before I go, I want to ask you, do you have an almost done article languishing in a virtual drawer? How about a new writing project that you just haven't been able to make the time to start yet? How about a piece of writing in the messy middle that you need to revive? Well, I've got the solution for you. Writing Sprint Blueprint. The Writing Sprint Blueprint is a powerful productivity tool for overwhelmed academics who want to get stalled out publications out of their pipelines and into the world. And it's only $27. And when you grab Writing Sprint Blueprint, you'll get my private motivational podcast feed called Stick to the Plan. It's 10 mini episodes of around a minute each that you can listen to right from your favorite podcast app to motivate you during your writing sprint. So what are you waiting for? Follow the link in the show notes to get Writing Sprint Blueprint today. I'll see you inside.